Have you ever wondered about what makes the households tick when our troops deploy? Yes, our armed forces are known for our mighty military, our brave men and women who go over to sandboxes and jungles across the world and keep us safe from harm's way. But have you ever asked your question, what about those they leave behind? Those husbands and wives that stay back to make sure the family runs day to day and does good while mom and dad are out of the country serving their country. We have an amazing Milspouse here today. It's going to share what it's like to be a Milspouse during these employments during wartime. Learn more about this coming up next. Mitchell, and this is To the Point. You know, we spend a lot of time on our show talking about veterans, which is great because I'm one. We also talk to first responders, and we talk to our frontline healthcare providers and workers that keep us safe and give us the latest knowledge and details on how we can be fighting anything and every disease that seems to be hitting us. Because 2020 just, if murder hornets and COVID-19 were enough, we have fire tornadoes and other things. But I wanted to talk about the Milspouse community today and how amazing they are. In the last 2 weeks, Stars and Stripes, all of a sudden I hit you with a random Stars and Stripes released this amazing guide of military spouse-owned businesses. Now, if you're not familiar with the term Milspouse, that stands for the brave men and women who stay behind while their loved ones depart overseas to go fight the war on terror or just fight the bad guys that keep us safe from harm. These brave men and women stay behind on bases and they depend on extra income. As you're going to learn, we're going to talk about unemployment within the Milspouse ranks. It's very crazy, but there's a bunch of amazing men and women out there that have created killer Milspouse businesses. Stars and Stripes, like I said, release an ultimate guide of these businesses. You can go check them out by just simply putting Milspouse guide and Stars and Stripes, and you'll find it right there. Download it, and there's some amazing businesses that you can endorse. Today's guest is going to fill us in more on what it's like to be a Milspouse and what she's up to. So let's get to the point with today's guest. Welcome to the show, Kim. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I am doing good. I love the fact that we can connect with you, not only because you're a Milspouse, but because you're proving the point that we can do these shows anywhere. You are in Spain right now, which is amazing. That, you know, here we are able to interview you and talk about it in firsthand. You know what it's like moving all around the world with a family and being a Milspouse while your husband's off. You know, and a Milspouse, it's husbands or wives get deployed to keep our freedom.
Mostly husbands.
Well, a lot of husbands. A lot of amazing, but in defense of the Milspouse, I think the Milspouse movement is powerful. You guys have amazing networks out there, and you do it on your own because, and I don't know this, again, anything I say, you could correct me anytime you want, Kim, and be like, Eric, you're wrong. But as a veteran, looking from the outside, I don't know. I mean, I know we're given very little assistance when it comes to the military. They barely give us anything. And from what I've heard from, depending on who I interview, they kind of don't really help you guys out either. When your spouse leaves, they're like, here you go. So is that true? Is it not as helpful as they'd like you to believe?
Not helpful at all. Honestly, I feel like we're considered the most insignificant part of the military. You know, the way they treat us is as if we don't matter. Apparently they think we do whatever we want and we do nothing. So they treat us as if we have it made and as if we don't need support.
Yeah. And obviously you do. So that's why you have the amazing Milspouse community where you guys have set up these amazing groups. I see them all over Facebook. I know that there's big conferences. I know offline I told you about some that I want to introduce you to. But I mean, it is amazing.
I know.
And Stars and Stripes, I know you didn't even know this, but you've been moving and traveling, so I'll send you the link. But Stars and Stripes just put out this amazing guide about all Milspouse businesses. So it was done. Flossie Hall and Moni Jefferson, and they're gonna hate me because I know them both, but I'm trying to remember the name of their agency. It's like AMSE. I don't even. Right now, they're probably like, Eric, please don't.
You know the acronyms.
I don't even know their. I don't know their acronym. But Flossie Hall, her husband is in the Navy. Also, he is. I think they're at Magoo, so he's a CB. So I know that much. And Moni's husband is, I believe, in the Air Force. I want to say I've met them both, so I should be able to know this off the top of my head. But I get confused easily because I'm a Marine. Crayons, just throw me a crayon and I'll be like, I got it. But
the most cocky branch.
Yes, we are. We are the cockiest branch too, and we'll tell you we're Marines real fast. So let's jump into this. So, how many moves have you done? So, how long has your husband been in the Navy, and how many moves have you done?
So he's been in the Navy since he was 18, straight out of high school. So that is, how many years is that? 15 years? Ooh. It feels like it's been forever, honestly. And I've been a military spouse for going on 10 years.
Oh, wow. That's a significant time. So how many moves have you done?
We've done 3 moves. We went from Connecticut to San Diego to here in Spain.
And, of course, do you have children?
We do. We have 4. We have 4 children.
Oh,
yes.
Boy. So you really... You really do it all. When they're deployed, you're like in charge. You have your own platoon. Yeah, you got.
Yes. I mean, we have our deployment babies. We have our pre-deployment babies. We have our after-deployment babies.
I love it, and that's truly great about kind of getting the insight into the Milspouse community. But tell the folks. A lot of these folks at home, they don't. We have a lot of veterans on our show, so we kind of talk about veteran initiatives. But this episode, I really want to focus on the Milspouse and what you guys go through. Now, I am familiar with the study that's out there that your guys' unemployment ratio is sky high. For, it's hard for Milspouses to go get a job because you guys have to move and you don't really control when you move. And I know I've talked to a lot. That's why a lot of people have created their own businesses. So that kind of fits in with you. You've created your own business. So what is it, before we talk about your business, what is it like trying to start a business, build a business, and have this ever-looming PCS kind of shadow behind you that is like, oh, you're going to move, here it is, oh, you're moving to Florida after you just got settled here. And I've seen it online where I'm like, and I'm showing the naivety of being a Marine going, God, these people move a lot. Like, didn't they just move to New Jersey? Now they're back in Florida. I'm like, does the Navy just have a sense of humor?
It is horrible. Yeah. I mean, to start, I would say people have this idea that military spouses are gold diggers, that we stay home, we rely on our spouses to provide for us financially as if we're making tons of money. And when we do look for jobs, we can't get hired because they don't want to take a chance on someone who's only going to work for them probably just a year or 2 before they have to leave again. So they're looking for someone who's long-term. So that's why spouses, a lot of times we create our own businesses because we're not sitting home doing absolutely nothing like they believe we're doing. We are actually trying to work and contribute because a lot of times being a stay-at-home mom is considered how would you put it?
Like
a lesser than respected job.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's not respected. So what we do is we try to create our own job. So some spouses are selling Mary Kay. Some spouses are creating their own businesses, and they're doing it with no support at all while taking care of multiple children.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said, my favorite thing you've said so far is people think that you would be a gold digger. I've never heard that because.
Yes.
Do they know how much
Listen to Kanye West.
So no one's told them how much we really make in the military? Because I got bad news for folks. We don't make that much. It doesn't. Yeah, especially if you're enlisted. You're not winning the lottery. Enlisted is not winning the lottery. I can tell you that. the privileges come real. The lower the rank you have, the crappier you're treated. It doesn't.
Exactly.
I just think it's funny you
And
said that, but it is true.
you know, people they try to chase after military men because they think they make all this money and they want the benefits. And then you get married in, and if you don't do it for love, you're going to be disappointed.
Greatly disappointed. You're like, yeah, the PX. No one gets that excited.
Yeah.
Like, I love that people think that. And I remember when I was in, I remember the young Marines that we would have, and they'd go get married. Like, they'd go on leave and come home, and they'd have the wife. And I remember them showing up to formation, and they're like, hey, I need to figure out where I'm putting my wife. I'm like, and I remember the Marine Corps said, well, you weren't issued that, so it's not our problem.
Like she's an object?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But it's true. That's how people look at it. And I know I have friends that, they were chased after high school because, somebody wanted to get out of a hometown, and people think that joining our beloved ranks, even as a spouse, is a wonderful thing. It's not. I mean, yeah, you get to go travel the world if that's your thing, but there's a lot of stressors, and I mean, that's why we have you on here. I mean, being deployed at any one time, I know in the Navy, your deployments are much like the Marine Corps. They could be 6 months, 9 months, 12 months deployments where contact is not optimal, and you're left in the rear. I mean, now you're in Spain, which is probably interesting to be deployed and be not even in America for even more support. So,
Right.
So you created your own business. So let's talk about something positive. So you've created your own business. So tell us a little bit about that, what drove you to create this business and how it's helping others.
So I would say the hardest deployment for me took place about 10 days after I gave birth to our third child. So my husband was gone. And this is the first time I experienced a panic attack. So I'm like, okay, something's wrong. I feel like something's going on with my mental health. I need to go get checked out. And of course, there's that stigma there. You don't want to claim anything's wrong with you. You don't want other people to think something's wrong with you. And then there's that rumor, if you go to the doctor and try to get help, then that's going to mess up your husband's career. That's going to give him a bad image and possibly get him kicked out. So you're there silently suffering, taking care of all of your children, and you have no one. So that's when I decided to become a certified life coach, so I can help military spouses and help them with their mental health without that fear of being found out or being judged, and actually having someone who understands them. A lot of times I talk to doctors, I talk to therapists, and they still don't get me. I mean, they have the schooling, but they don't have the experience. So you're talking to someone who's talking about apples and you're talking about oranges. Yeah. So it's nice to have someone who can relate to you, who has the knowledge, who has the education and the experience.
Yeah. So why, and I know the answer to this, but I'm playing for the folks at home. So if you report a mental illness, just like in the military, just like active duty, your significant other, well, it doesn't matter who you are as a Milspouse, you can ruin their career with trying to get help for yourself, which is so wacky because you don't know what you're getting into. I mean, a lot of us who enlist and go in, we understand, especially in, I'd say the Navy, Marine Corps, and Army, there is a very good chance your butt's going to get deployed. If it's got moving parts and can go places, the Navy and the Marine Corps have been doing this together since 1775. Their birth dates are very close together. So the Navy and the Marine Corps are traditionally always the first responders. It's always what you see when there's something going on. It's like, yep, some Navy ships left, and usually Marines go with them. And help me understand this. So the military actually punishes you for going, holy crap, I'm here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children, and I'm on my own. I can't talk to my significant other because they're off saving the world. Because that's what they're all doing. I don't care what their job is. If you go and forward deploy, you're saving the world. I don't care if you're cranking a wrench. You're saving the world. You're doing more than I'm doing right now. But
how you put that?
But it's true. I mean, I hate it when people are like, oh, I'm like, not everybody has to be a Navy SEAL. I'm happy for my freedom. I'm happy that you guys, I look over everybody. I don't care what you do. It's like, drive the bus. Good. You're driving a bus in a place where you could be shot driving the bus. But so the military seriously punish you. So how do you get around that? How do you get these spouses to open up to you and go, okay, I can trust you because you're not going to go, we call them Blue Falcons in the Corps. I forget what the Navy calls them. But you know those folks that'll go like snitch you out to like command? There are people that do that. Trust me, I know, because we call them Blue Falcons, because those dudes will be like,
Right.
Psst, dude, Mitchell has told you know how those. So how do you get these spouses to open up to you and just feel comfortable enough to kind of, because mental health is huge. I mean, you know that within our own ranks. I mean, I'm sure you see the nightmare of what it looks like on the other side as the veteran side of the house, with the VA sucking for everything, and only can imagine how bad it is for families on the other side. But how do you get these spouses to open up to you? Because it's a very important topic, is your mental health, and it's got to be hard, because I know mentally being deployed for myself was difficult mentally, and I was one person. So I mean, I know my mom went through stress, but my mom's probably like, that was so long ago. But I mean, how do you get these spouses to open up to you and kind of guide them through this path that it'll be a better day?
Transparency. That's one thing about myself that I love, not to brag about myself, but I am transparent. I don't hide what I am struggling with. You know, even on my Serenity page, that's what draws a lot of people to me. They're like, man, you motivated me, the way you spoke about your situation or your struggles without any censor. I mean, I even talk about my relationship struggles, my marital struggles, my struggles being a parent. And people are more comfortable when they see how comfortable you are, and especially if they can relate to you. So you build that trust factor. That's a life coaching skill as well, building rapport. So being able to relate and speak their language, and that's the way you can build a relationship, and that's how they open up to you eventually.
Awesome. So how has COVID-19 impacted you? Obviously, it's everywhere. We're all very familiar with it, and then you add in schooling, which becomes a stress on all parents. And then you probably are talking to folks whose significant others are deployed, which adds to the stress of dealing with, I mean, I feel I've recently interviewed someone whose husband was deployed. He left like March 10th, which would be like 3 to 4 days before COVID hit, and he deployed. And she was left like, holy crap, I'm on my own. I've got to figure out school. I've got to do all this. And that's just normal deployment. And then you add in COVID, which throws everything for a loop, because all of a sudden you're like, herding cats, and people need to wear masks. Don't wear masks. Wash your hands. I mean, you should wash your hands all the time. But how has that impacted your coaching with dealing with people now with another issue? Deployment is enough, but now you're dealing with all the stress of COVID. You've got to hear it from your loved ones at home. You know, just everybody has their 2 cents, and then people. I have a series of questions on how people are thinking, but COVID's the first one. How have you seen that with the folks that you're coaching? How are they handling it, and what advice are you giving them to stay above? And I ask this of everybody, just so you know, life coaches, I love talking to you guys. And my basically is, what advice are you giving to keep your head up out of the sand? You know what I mean? Instead of, it's so quick. You can either fight COVID and be like, I'm gonna still be me, or you can bury yourself in the sand, sit down on your couch with a can of bonbons and watch Netflix till you hate yourself even more. I mean, we've seen that. People are in between. So what advice are you giving to people to encourage them to get up and get out instead of just, settle for just life sucks?
Yeah. I would say the spotlight has been put on mental health for good reason, but too much spotlight has been put on mental health more than the actual solution to the problem. So quite often we are more focused on goals, looking ahead, not looking behind, not looking at today as much, looking at what can I do today to make my tomorrow better. So we go through like a step-by-step process, and we build a bigger picture. I like to call it a vision board. You're probably familiar with vision boards, right?
Oh,
So we build a vision board, and that kind of changes the direction of their thoughts. Because what you think, your actions start from your thoughts alone. And that's what mental health is all about. It starts from your mind, your thoughts. What are you replaying in your head? So that's what we pretty much do.
Awesome. See, and that's good. Vision boards are important. Positive thinking. You have to get people to really kind of set that vision and see it and believe in it. And I know that's sound advice. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on in America. It's 2020, right? Milspouses, you guys are involved, right? The government either is always boasting that they're giving money away. I saw recently that they now want to cut health care to military families. You're
kidding! I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, it's another welcome to the party thing.
that away. So I mean,
Yeah.
why not, right?
Yeah, hey, why not?
Ridiculous.
Why don't we take everything from you? So, obviously, you're dealing with different things, especially from a viewpoint of the military. What is that like? I mean, especially in an election year where everyone kind of points their, they look at you, they're like, oh, you're in the military. You must think I don't know. And it goes back to how we started this conversation. Your first question, you were like, people are gold diggers, so it just made me laugh because this was my question down the line going, just so everybody knows, we don't make a lot of money in the military. This is not a lottery winning system. When active duty has to go drive Uber, Lyft, and Grubhub, that should show you that the pay isn't, it's not jumping off into your wallet. So, how are you looking at, obviously there's an election, obviously you're going to be absentee voting if you're going to vote. I mean, how are you following the election and what's it mean to you as a member of our military? You are, as a Milspouse. What does it mean to you to see kind of the country today, America, as a Milspouse going, holy crap? You're in Spain, so you're actually looking at it as an American through their glasses back at us going,
yeah.
Yeah. So what's that like? I mean, I'm curious because your guys' mindset is so different than somebody else's because you're on the tip of the spear for our freedom, where the rest of us are just like, we're cool because I'm here in Portland, Oregon going, okay, they're in Spain. That's like the front lines as close as we get. I mean, the Navy can't go in the sand. They sail in the water. They're really good at that. The SEALs go play in the sand. They love sand, but the rest of the squids, they just float around in their little boats or ships, sorry. Not boats. They hate it when I call them boats. Yeah. But anyways, so how does that, I mean, how does election 2020 being in a foreign country kind of looking at everything? I mean, do you guys talk about that when you're around other Milspouses? Do you talk about what goes on back home?
It is so, people are so afraid to say anything, especially in the military. So even with my husband, we have a joint page on Facebook. And there's so much I want to say because I like to say whatever I'm thinking. Yeah. And I'm like, crap, I can't post this because he's in the military and he can't say anything. He can't have a voice. He can't have a mind of his own. Yeah. So now I have to be silent. And I live on base. Yeah. And can I say I hate it? Is that wrong to say on TV?
No, you're allowed to say it because I haven't met too many people who are like, this base is awesome. It has everything. We're not in the Air Force, okay? This isn't the Air Force. It's a Navy and Marine Corps bases traditionally kind of get the, it's a base. That's it's a base.
Even wearing fashionable items to showcase your political views, you cannot do that on base. I can't wear Black Lives Matter on my t-shirt. I can't wear that on a mask. How dare you? You're a military spouse. You're representing the United States of America. You're not supposed to go against our country. So if I say anything against our current president, I'm hated and I have to live here. So pretty much there's a muzzle on my mouth, so we don't have the right. And it's funny, we fight for the freedom for Americans to have the freedom to say whatever they want to say, but we don't have that freedom for ourselves, which is strange, so you can't even protest in uniform. I don't believe you can protest if you're active duty at all.
No, you can't.
So it's like you don't have a voice.
But I find
when I'm watching,
I find it weird that you can't even wear a Black Lives Matter shirt, which to me, as a Milspouse, you should. And I'm going to be the white guy in the room. Yeah, a black woman, and your husband is an active duty black man. I'm sure he's dealt with a lot of what we're talking about in America. It can speak out against it. And I mean, and we've seen, trust me, I came up in the ranks. I understand that racism is alive and well inside our ranks, no matter what anybody says. I wish it wasn't, but I'm not saying, I mean, crap, we can't even figure out sexual assault in the military because we still play that off like it doesn't exist.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
And,
it's horrible.
We're just going down a lightning bolt range, aren't we? Let's just go talk all the topics right now. But go ahead.
Something about that.
All right.
My husband was stopped. We were in the States many times by policemen. Mm-hmm. And the only reason they let him go was when they saw his military ID. They would see his military ID, and then they're like, oh, okay, that's how you were able to afford this car. This is your deployment. So it's impossible for a black man to be able to afford absolutely anything, unless it's drug money, of course, because we're all criminals. So, and my husband's like, babes, when I take off this uniform, I'm more afraid than when I put it on. because I earn my respect by wearing the camouflage outfit, but once I take it off, I lost it. So it's a serious issue.
I mean, it must be difficult. You're in Spain, looking back at the States right now, and as you're aware, we just had another shooting in Wisconsin with a black man innocently handcuffed and shot. Because, hey, that's another, and they didn't have body cams on. Shocking, again, Wisconsin.
Of course not.
Of course not. This is what and you're sitting here, and it's an election year. You have, and I'm not going to get this to go too political because I don't want to get you or your husband in trouble, but I'll paddle.
It's fine.
I'll paddle down the channel. But as we talk about it, you got to look. I mean, both these presidents, and to me, it's kind of like, seriously, they're both like throwing out, like, they're both old white dudes throwing out how much they love the black community suddenly. And it just creeps me out because I'm like, neither one of you are Obama, so stop. Like, if
right?
And you got one of them, I mean, at least Joe's not completely dutsy. The other one says that he's done more for black people than Abraham Lincoln, and I'm like,
yeah, that was interesting.
I'm like, are you sure? I'm pretty sure you haven't topped Lincoln ever. Period. Hard stop. I'm like, bro, what are you trying to like? But they're all this way, and then you have to sit here in rank. You can't really speak up. You can't take the social to give your opinion, which you should, and your husband should be too, because zero folks who, and I'm going to say this as a veteran, and within our, and I'm going to say this, and it sounds weird coming from a Marine, but in our ranks, like especially as a veteran, we're not measured off the color of our skin. When they do our census, when we get out, it's veteran. Nobody gives two craps.
About your skin
our
color.
Skin color, our religion, what branch we served in, what rank we were. You're a vet. Check the box. And a lot of us live that. And I will say a majority of veterans believe that. And I will say a majority in uniform believe that we should all we don't understand it because we don't see racism because we work with each other. It's like some folks, I was a grunt, so I didn't work with women. But a lot of, that's, it's true. I didn't. And I'm the first guy to say it. But that's why the Lord blessed me with 2 daughters and a wife. So he made up for it. I take orders now.
Right.
I'm no longer in charge. But I mean, for you, it's frustrating to hear your husband is feeling this way with taking his uniform off because as an American, he should not have to worry about that. As somebody who serves our country, he's a badass in anybody's eyes. Little boys would see him in that uniform and freaking raise the roof, right? He's a Navy SEAL without anybody even needing to ask the question. It's kind of like when people talk about Marines. Every single Marine's like recon or sniper, even though none of us are.
Right.
That's always how they treat it. And for him to take his uniform off and to be harassed because of it, that's frustrating to me as, and we talk about this on our show, as a veteran, it pisses me off more than anything. That and the sexual assault and sexual harassment of our women in ranks, that makes my blood boil. But to hear racism and it be used so often, it's good to have you on this show to go, okay, not only are you deployed, you're a woman of color having to deal with this, and I'm sure you feel racism even being deployed. You're on a base. I'm sure, God, if you wore a Black Lives Matter shirt, you probably deal with more crap than anybody else on the planet.
I already dealt with neighbors who live just across the street from us. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible.
So how do you keep a positive mindset with everything going on? I'm asking you, the life coach, how do you coach yourself to kind of get through this? I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, you and your husband, you guys look back. You're from New York, so New York has been, kind of the epicenter of a lot of what's going on. I mean, how do you turn this around and go, okay, we're fighting for our country, as a joint task force, the two of you. I mean, how do you keep your head up? You have, beautiful children, and you're looking at this and you're going, holy crap, are we going back in time? Because to me, it feels like we're going back in time, and I'm a little bit older, so when I say this, it looks like we're going back in time. To me, I remember reading about the civil rights movement in the 60s and, Malcolm and Martin Luther King and, everyone else who really, Rosa Parks. I'm going to sound like every other white guy. Rosa Parks. But I mean, but like you look at
Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, Harriet Tubman. I could do that. I mean, I could do, I could do Frederick Douglass too if you need me to. I'm actually reading his book. But I mean, I read Malcolm X's book back when I was in high school. So true story. I geeked on that. Hell yeah. And then Denzel did the ultimate Like, that dude looked like Malcolm. I don't know how he pulled it off.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
But
That was
Denzel can
crazy.
become whoever Denzel wants. Denzel's like the epitome of like gangsta. But anyways, we can talk about Denzel. It's a whole nother episode because I'll geek out on that. But, you know, when we see this, how do you kind of function going, holy crap, are we going back in time? But I mean, I will say this. Do you think that there's more like, I think now there's more Caucasian folk like me willing to speak up and stand with you.
Yes.
Where before we were all quiet and be like, nope, nope, the African American community, the black people, they could go do it. There they go. We'll stand here. And I'm like, hell no. I read the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and was like, you're either racist or anti-racist. You can't be in the middle and be quiet about it. You got to speak up. I took my kids to a Black Lives Matter protest. We had no problem with it, and my children experienced it. They experienced a little redneck dude driving by telling us all to go back to where we came from, which I was confused.
Right.
And then he called us all, you know, that favorite word that I'll never say on TV. It starts with N, and it's a horrible word. He called me that. He called me and my children that as he drove by in his truck. Yeah, I was confused as he was. I was like,
you're one of us now. Welcome to the club.
yeah. And my children were like, Dad, why did he just say that? And I'm like, and my 13-year-old's like, Dad, where am I supposed to go back to? He said to go back to where I'm from. I'm like, I guess you're going back to California, son. I don't know what to tell you. Apparently, that's a foreign country to that guy. Apparently, that's just what that guy. But we see it in our country. So how do you see, from your viewpoint, 2020 is just like somebody held a hand grenade in all of our hands. It's like hot potato, but a grenade. So how do you feel about that as a life coach? What are you telling yourself to keep your head up?
For me, man, you mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
So even just thinking about 2020, I feel like because being a life coach, we're more focused on your goals. Mm-hmm. So I'm more goal driven than ever before in my life. So because of the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the rise of racism for some odd reason in 2020, I am more hungry to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm pushing myself to finish school. I'm even looking at law school just because I'm so motivated by what I'm seeing on TV or even what I'm experiencing on an everyday basis as a Black woman. I'm like, you know what? We need more of us. We need more military spouses, Black military spouses, or Black women, period, to go out there, fight for their goals and get those high positions so they can actually have a voice and use it instead of being silenced like we've always been for years. And I would say doing that definitely keeps me motivated, keeps my mind positive, because, I mean, if I sit around and do nothing all day, obviously that's not going to help. So as long as we're focused on our goals, more than likely we'll be moving in a more positive direction. You know, progress is better than just sitting around doing nothing and complaining. Do something about it. And it feels good. It feels good to know that you are making your mark, that you are doing something that's going to help not only yourself, but other people.
I love that because that's totally putting a positive spin on something. You could take it negative and you could be like, this sucks. I think, and we talked about that earlier, but you're putting a positive spin on it, and I'll put a military, you know, tip of the spear, charging the hill kind of, you know.
Yeah, let's do it.
And you have to gather more folks to do that. And I think that's why I love talking to the Milspouse community, because you folks do it. It's a very grassroots campaign, and you guys kind of just go through the fields and you're like, join me, and you grab, you scoop up a Milspouse, and you don't take no for an answer. And I see it out there. You know, I see the Rosie Network out there doing their job, and I see, you know, I've talked about Military Influencers Conference on this show multiple times, but, you know, I see the Rosie Network. I know Stephanie Brown, Flossie Hall, and Moni Jefferson. I've seen what they're doing. Just amazing. And in you, all these amazing Milspouses, and you're all gathering each other up, and you guys don't even know each other, and you're not in the same branches, and you're, you know, completely different ranks in life, but you're like, how can we help each other and gather each other up? And I think that's incredible. I've seen even like Charlinda Scales, who runs Mutt Sauce, which is an amazing company. You know, she's went from military to Milspouse. Then you have Jazz Booth, who's been a guest on our show. She runs Final Salute Inc. and Miss Veteran America. Her husband is a Marine. She got out as a major in the Army, but she was an Oprah hero in 2014 and a CNN hero the same year. Yeah. So she's like a little badass. You have all these.
She is. You did with her. It was amazing. I was actually inspired by it. I was like, man, maybe I should be a double major this year.
Right? She's a badass. She sets the bar high, doesn't she? Yeah, she's. Jazz is my girl. I love me some Jazz. She comes on and sets everything straight, and it's funny to have people. Yeah, she cares. And I think that's kind of pointing in the direction that you're doing. You're going back to school, you're educating yourself so you can help more people. And I think that's what makes the Milspouse community so alike to the veteran community. I love comparing them because they're very much the same, right? Without one, there wouldn't be the other. And I think that's key because we help each other.
Exactly. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
Yes. I like to call us the silent ranks. I like to say that we are serving our country without wearing the uniform. Mm-hmm. We are the foundation and the backbone of the family. So we make it possible for our husbands or wives to go out, do their thing, and come back home to a nice home. So we bring that balance.
And it's true. And I'm glad you said that because it is behind every warrior that's on the front line is they're depending on their immediate family at home. And you want that safety. There isn't a husband or a wife out there who's on the front line that doesn't want to know that their children and their wife or their significant other aren't being, I feel so PC that I have to say this, and I'm not trying to be offensive. So being the Marine here, I'm like significant other male spouse. I think I've called male and spouse like 4 times. I apologize. Totally not being disrespectful by doing this. I'm like kid gloves over here being a well-behaved, I don't want to come across as like a mean veteran because I'm not. I love what the Mills.
You're a New Yorker at heart. That's just what I think. That's who you are.
I try not to, but I'm a knucklehead. I can't help it. It just comes across. But I like what you're doing and your community is doing is incredible. So before you go, let's kind of talk about your coaching. Now, is it only for Milspouse or is it open to everybody?
Open to everybody.
Okay, awesome.
But I have a soft spot for my Milspouses, which is why I've actually, to this day, never charged them my services, not once, because I'm passionate about it and I want to see them win. And I know how much they struggle. But yes, it's open to absolutely anybody.
Awesome. Cool. Because that's what we're going to do. Because before you go, we're going to make sure everybody knows they can scroll down into Facebook and into YouTube, find your link, and be able to connect with you, not just on social media, but if you'd like to learn more about getting coaching. Obviously, if you're a Milspouse, you're the person to get a hold of right away. So give you a call, or not a call because you're in Spain, but to reach out to you and connect with you that way would be the best way. That's what I would say. So that's how smart I am there. But I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great interview. Got a lot of insight, especially into the Milspouse community, because I know a lot of people, they don't understand it. It's not talked about a lot out in the open. I feel that the only time, especially TV-wise, is that, the second week in May is National Milspouse Appreciation Day or something like that. I know it falls in May because the networks are like, can you find us a Milspouse? I'm like, was it like farming?
Right.
Do I go call for them? How do I do that? And it's funny, they're like, do you know what Milspouse stands for? True story, Kim. That's what they're like, do you know what it means? I'm like, I'm gonna guess that the first mil part would be military and spouse would be the other. Military spouse. I mean, we don't really go out on a limb there when we're in the military and naming things, so it's not too difficult. We're pretty smart. I mean, it's like veteran entrepreneur. I'm going to go on a limb. But that's the true story. So
I like that.
So it is a big focal point for us to have you on the show. We'll have you back. Want to continue learning more about the military spouse community because I think it's key and in growing your business. So I do want to encourage our viewers to connect with you, and especially that we appear on C-Suite Network. If you're a brand and you want to learn more about the Milspouse community, Kim is definitely somebody that you want to connect with and see how you guys can partner up and help, because we need to reach out because your unemployment rate is rather high because you guys do have to jump everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you have to do so much of it on your own.
Mentioned before, there's 3 different stages. There's the pre-deployment stage, there's the deployment stage, and then there's the post-deployment stage. So you got to understand that spouses are dealing with a lot. So where is their time to work? For a lot of them. Absolutely. So you just got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, that's the fun part of this, right? Is trying to figure it all out as you're going along. So it's an adventure, they say. That's right.
Yeah.
The adventure.
Right.
But I want to thank you, Kim, for joining us today. We've learned a lot. I think we're going to have a lot of questions for you coming from folks in the community. Just like if you watch Jazz's appearance. Same thing, we're going to be asking more questions, so we'll have to have you up on a follow-up as people learn more about what's going on in the Milspouse community. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. Please be safe, and your husband, keep him safe too. We love our warriors overseas, and we'll be thinking of you. We'll have you on real soon. Everybody else, we'll be right back. Thank you for watching today's show. As always, if you'd like to be a guest or you know somebody that we should have on our show as a guest, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And you can also email us if you have a complaint, want to give us kudos, high fives, or if you have an additional question for a guest. Feel free to email us again at hello@tothepointtv.com. Our Twitter is up and running, and it's for social good. Not yelling and screaming political or anything else crazy on our Twitter. So follow us on Twitter at @ToThePointTV, and we'll tweet back at you. And as always, we want you to check out our IG. We love Instagram. Our Instagram stories are up, they're buzzing, and they're meant for you. We love our fans and followers, and we want you to know who our guests are coming on, and we want you to engage with us, and we want to engage with you. So make sure you're following us at Instagram at @ToThePointTV. Now, we love you on Facebook, and we want to make sure, because you're probably watching this on Facebook, you're like, why would I? You already follow us. But tell a friend that they can come follow our show and never miss a live episode. As you know, here on Facebook, make sure you head, if you're not on Facebook watching this, then it's different, but our Facebook is To The Point with Eric Mitchell. So make sure you follow us there so you always get notified when our show goes live at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Now, for the folks over on YouTube. Now, YouTube, we love our YouTube, and our channel is growing, and we love you there. Now, if you missed the live show at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can catch the premiere, which is re-recorded. The premiere on YouTube goes down every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and simply just go do that. So remember, with YouTube, what we want you to do is smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and flick that bell. That's right, hit the bell. Give that bell some bell love, and that way you know when we're on air and you can catch our latest episode. Check out our playlist. All of them broken down by the day and the guest and show, so you can always stay up to date. Once again, on behalf of the entire team here at To The Point, we want to thank you for, again, tuning in and watching our show, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on To The Point. As always, I am your host, Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point. Sit and enjoy. This is Eric Mitchell. He the host of the show. Get to the point. He is the voice. We needed this, something more. This a daily show that's known for politics and the sports. Ain't no limit to whoever you may see at this point. To celebrities, Eric he's beast in the joint. As a veteran, put him at ease, then annoy. Every conversation can never be disappointed. Whether tragic or it's happy, Eric will cover whatever's happening. Whether it be your gymnast, toe tapping, talking about nearly any athlete, not taking a back seat. You're never gonna get it past T. Everybody running from it, it's a stampede. But he's on it like this man who took that knee. Mr. Mitchell's way too crafty.